Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Memorial Day edition of Generally Irritable. It is Memorial Day tomorrow. It's a Memorial Day weekend. We've had some lovely weather and some crummy weather to celebrate, and it looks like tomorrow's going to be even better. It's literally perfect, beautiful Vermont summer day. We did get rained on a little bit in the parade yesterday. So one of the great traditions in Vermont are Memorial Day parades, and you got to love it. Everybody was out, had their best red, white, and blue on with their pinwheels and their flags. And per usual, Ray Ingram created the most amazing float for me for the parade. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bring up a picture to share with you guys because it was so good. Uh, it's so good, and I'm so excited. You know, we work together as a team. We talk about what the themes are for the floats and for the parades, and then he just makes magic happen. Um, do 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 do. I'm gonna sing a little song that sounds silly till I can bring a picture up. Okay, let me see. All right, you guys, I got to share this with you. Here we go. Share my screen. Let's see. Do do do. Look at that. Look at the praying soldiers. That's Patty. That's Patty Myers, Ray Ingram, my two best volunteers. Ray's been with me since my very first campaign. He was my very first volunteer on my very first campaign. He's a neighbor here in the New North End. He's awesome. Look at how awesome our float is. Oops, that's crooked. La, da, 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 da. All right. It was so cool. Look at that. Wait, where's the good? Oh, there it is with the flags and the kneeling silhouettes. You guys, it was so cool. Anyway, I'm just bragging on my people here. Anyway, back to the point of today. And actually, I'm kind of excited because my guest today is a veteran of the Army, West Point graduate, and candidate for the U.S. Senate here in Vermont. Gerald Malloy. It has a very interesting career, very good resume, very good credentials. Somebody that I would trust in Washington to make good decisions. I wonder if he wants to be on the Foreign Relations Committee. We might have to ask him about that. Speaking of which, I need to figure out what committees I want to be on. So Gerald, he's visiting us with us today. We're going to talk about his campaign. We're going to talk about his candidacy and what his hopes and goals are for the country and as a representative of Vermont. So without wasting too much time, let's bring Gerald in here with us. Hello, Gerald. Welcome to Generally Irritable.
Hello, Erica. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And,
thank
I
you for
feel the same way
coming.
about you in your candidacy running for representative.
Well, thank you, sir. I thank you very much. You know, even not all my competitors, but even some of my competitors, I would say, would be a fine choice in Washington. We have some very competent, exciting candidates for office in Vermont this year, whether it's for federal, state. We got some good contests going, even for like lieutenant governor and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So, you know, I just think I'm so excited. Is this my first episode of candidates for this election season? You might be my very first candidate interview this session. So this is kind of exciting.
This is exciting. Yes.
So now you were in the parade with us yesterday,
Yes. I
and
did want to say your float looked great yesterday. And as we talked about a minute or two ago, hopefully none of us came down with pneumonia or a cold because it started to absolutely pour.
oh
But
my
it was a
God.
great event.
Yes, downpour. I can't believe my boots actually weren't filled with water
Mine were.
somehow.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Justin's leather work boots, shout out. They
Mhm.
actually they were wet, but my feet stayed dry. Best leather work boots I've ever owned. I love them. Side
Yeah.
note, I should get
Uh,
advertising dollars for that. But so
Could I?
Gerald,
Yeah.
why don't we start? Oh, we've already got some questions and people in the chat. Oh, I love it. Oh,
Well,
yes,
could I say
Christopher.
one just little tiny intro piece?
Yeah, that's what I
Memorial
was
Day
just gonna
weekend.
say. Why don't you, Gerald, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself,
Sure.
about your candidacy, why you're running? Give us
Okay.
the 2-minute elevator pitch.
Well, first, I wanted to say I hope everyone is having an enjoyable Memorial Day weekend, and I wanted to recognize the men and women that did make that ultimate sacrifice, which the weekend is about, and
Yes, sir.
from a grateful nation, and myself included. I also want to say thank you to our veterans and military and law enforcement for continuing to protect our freedom. So,
Amen to that.
yeah.
And that, interestingly enough, sometimes people forget Memorial Day is specifically to honor those that didn't make it home. Veterans Day is for veterans, but Memorial Day is for those who did give their lives for this country.
Mhm.
And what I said to some folks as we were talking and walking through the parade and things like that, I said, we're here to honor people who gave their lives for this country, and
Mhm.
all I have to do is stand out here and get wet. I think that I can handle that. I think we can
Yeah.
all handle, giving a little bit more of ourselves. If every American just donated a little bit of money, volunteered a few hours a month toward their self-governance, whether it's on a board, committee, just go to your school board meeting.
Mhm.
That's how we can say thank you and honor the people who have given their lives for our freedom. Just
Mhm.
just participate.
And voting.
Participate in the government that they gave their lives for.
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Agree
'Oh,
100%.
you're now I'm on my soapbox. You got me talking.
That's all right.
Um All right, Gerald. So tell our viewers a little bit about yourself
Sure.
and what had you decide to run.
Sure. So a little bit about me, Eric. First, to thank you for having me on the show. As you mentioned, at 18, fortunate enough to be accepted to go to West Point, and then I served a little over 22 years on active duty with assignments around the world, leadership positions, Germany, Fulda Gap, a couple of times in Korea, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Jordan, some duty in Canada, 5 years at Fort Bragg. Um, had the opportunity to
Oh,
train
wow.
about
That's
50,000,
cool.
yeah, 50,000 reserve component soldiers, including a lot of Vermont units. And I was also did some ROTC work where I actually worked with Norwich and UVM. Uh, Towards the end, near the end of my active duty career, I worked at the Joint Field Office in New York City immediately after 9/11.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I went in and worked 5 years with many U.S. government organizations, DOD, DHS, HHS, a lot of the law enforcement community, worked on about 20 presidential disaster declarations. And the last
Wow.
11 years plus, been working business, mostly in the Washington, D.C. area, providing leading efforts to provide services to many U.S. government organizations in and around D.C., a very competitive environment. I think it's very relative. What I do there is engage government organizations, mostly Department of Defense, listen to their issues and requirements, and then build a proposal to solve problems for different government organizations. I
Excellent.
guess most importantly, married, happily married, 4 children, 3 here in Vermont in Vermont schools. And my wife, Stacy, and I, we live down in Perkinsville. It's actually part of Weathersfield down in Windsor County. Oh yeah, that's the family. That's a wedding. It was interesting, Eric. I went
Yeah.
from the Grange Forum and drove directly down to rehearsal dinner that night on Saturday, and that wedding picture. Those are all that's my sister-in-law's wedding
Ah.
on the Cape, Cape Cod.
Oh, I love it. You have such a beautiful family.
Yeah, so you
Look
can
at
see
Oop,
Nolan
hold on.
on the far right. That Nolan, he's a junior up at St. Johnsbury. Gerald is a senior at Purdue and going to become a police officer. I'm very
Oh,
proud of him for
oh,
that. Of course,
excellent.
you've met Stacy.
Yep,
I will tell you
Stacy.
one thing about Stacy. She's actually written a couple of children's books, which are pretty nice.
Oh, cool. Oh, you'll have to send are they people buy them?
Yeah. You can.
Oh, it's
Shelley,
have her
there's
send
four of
me
them.
the links and we'll post it in we'll pin it in one of the the
Sure.
comments.
Yeah, they're nice. They're nice little books.
Cool.
And Warner's my youngest. He got the tall gene. As you can see, I'm only about 5'8", and he's already taller than me. But he's 13 at the Weathersfield School. And then Hannah's actually taking time off. She's going to see CVC, no, not CVC,
CCC,
CCV, yeah. And
CCV.
but she's still enrolled at UVM
Oh,
nursing program. So
oh, excellent,
that's the fam. And
excellent.
I guess a couple, I am a veteran, as you mentioned, and have an MBA and have a graduate certificate from Georgetown. And I could talk for kind of a long time about why I decided, but it was to kind of condense it in. I became very concerned, really from day one of the current administration, with what I consider unconstitutional executive orders, and then the overspending, which has led us to where we are right now. The
Hmm.
overspending, and I think what I would call unconstitutional mandates and
Yeah.
other unconstitutional initiatives. Uh, Afghanistan withdrawal.
Oh,
I don't blame our military for that. I do blame our commander in
yep,
chief. That I think
yep.
we're
That's a
seeing
leadership issue.
repercussions of that still. And then I watched well, going back a little bit, I had to be honest, I had no intentions of running for office. Uh, but when Senator Leahy made his announcement, the thought crossed my mind. And I did what I call my own boots on the ground, pretty much December, January, February assessment across the
Yeah.
state,
Yep.
visiting quite a bit of Vermont just to get a direct, Vermonter on the street feel for how Vermonters felt about how the country is going. And it was pretty much unanimous in the wrong direction. And that's what I thought. And so I made my decision to run. I announced in March, and the campaign's been going great.
Excellent.
Every day growing. And like you said, I think Republican Party has some great candidates,
Yeah.
including yourself. And I think this is what the country needs, is a unified Republican Party effort to get us back on track, because we're off track.
Yes. Yeah. And we really do. Conservatives really do have the better, more compassionate uh programs, decisions, thoughts, ideas. And we've gotten to see, I think, the if we can find something good out of what we've experienced, it's seeing the results of basically pure democratic control. The American people have gotten to see what it looks like to be led by people who believe that they are entitled to your labor, they're entitled to your money, they're entitled to your belongings, and they're entitled to tell you how to live your life. And I don't think people liked it very much.
No, I don't. I mean, I took the exact same oath a U.S. Senator takes, support and defend the Constitution. And that's kind of my top goal, get back to abiding by the Constitution. As you've mentioned,
Yeah.
the overspending. I
Yeah.
really think it's kind of a different view. Republican limited government,
Yes.
provide opportunity for economic prosperity, and just enough, do the functions of the Constitution, just enough order so that we can all enjoy the liberty,
Yep.
freedom, and rights of the Constitution, versus being provided for, and what I call, a little drip of stimulus, which has caused the inflation we have now. And as we've talked about, kind of chipping away at rights. And
Yeah.
that's not what I think the Constitution is. That's not the intent.
Well, and what's interesting is it's interesting when there you find areas where the Constitution and psychological research actually prove one another. So where the Constitution and the framers of this country said, the government should be very small, particularly the federal government, right? So the
Mhm.
federal government should be very small. And then if there is governance that needs to be done, it should be done within cities and states and smaller government. But even those were supposed to be much smaller than they are now.
Mhm.
And when we talk about entitlement programs and we talk about stimulus, as you mentioned, um, psychology actually shows us that human beings do not appreciate things that they're given.
Mhm.
Number one, so that's number one. We do not appreciate things that we're just given in the same way that we appreciate things we've had to work for, but also that we need to have a purpose. We need to have something we're toiling over and working towards and working on, or we become unhappy and depressed.
Mhm.
Like literally, psychologists say you need a job.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be a job, but it needs to be, you know what I mean? Like, you need a job, you need a purpose in life
Mhm.
to be happy and fulfilled. Otherwise, you're usually depressed and listless. And so you go, okay, well, then, we have all this evidence about that. Why don't we just do what we know works?
It's a different outlook. I mean, and we're seeing it, and I that's why I'm running, because
Yeah.
we cannot keep going in this direction. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, you mentioned, I mentioned day one on what I consider unconstitutional executive orders.
Oh,
I think we see, getting back to the Constitution, it talks about providing for the general welfare. We have a president that is, what I've called, on a crusade to kill the oil and gas industry. And,
yeah,
300 plus million Americans, Vermonters, myself included, depend on that to put gas in our car and
hmm,
heat our home and cook our food. And now it's, diesel 6.43 a gallon. And that's, we had oil and gas independence. We had a trade
that's right.
surplus, and we've lost that, and we've
Yeah.
lost that at a really bad time. And
And
behind that,
unconstitutionally,
and-
we don't have a king. Okay. I don't know
right,
why. I don't understand. Do you know how executive orders became a thing? Anybody watching, if you know the answer to this, put it in the comments. When did executive orders become a thing? I need to know this information because,
I've done some research. I'm not an expert, but
yeah,
different presidents do different numbers, particularly on day one, and then the
yep,
next president comes in and gets
undoes
rid of
them.
them. And there are some political ways to maybe change them. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what I think what's unfortunate is the people who praise presidents for doing executive orders, you have to really be careful of that because e- even we have to be upset when our team does it too.
Right.
You're not supposed to be able to do that. And so gridlock is a feature, not a bug in federal politics. The federal government really isn't supposed to be able to get things done. That was the point. They made it hard on purpose. And what executive orders do is it basically subverts the separation of powers, and laws that can't get passed legislatively are then just passed like we have a king.
Mhm.
And so I think limiting executive powers, executive orders would be really a good thing.
Mhm.
Let's see. We've
Well, I
got some
think, well, when what I was going to say is
yeah,
also is behind that thought, I believe, of our president is to implement a new Green Deal. And, um, in terms of resources and infrastructure and the actual implementation, the actual value and what the American people actually want,
right.
there's a huge gap there. And it's not, so overall, it's been bad ideas, and
Yeah.
we're living them.
Well, and that's what, my understanding is we don't even have the electrical infrastructure to be able to implement the plans that they want to implement.
Right.
Y-
And like I mentioned, exactly. And I mentioned the resources. So I think we have a limited amount of lithium mines. I think in Nevada, I think there may be some more opportunity there to uh, get more lithium out of Nevada, but that's not going to happen overnight. And the idea for and I want to see future energy and climate and emissions and environmental plans, for our planet, and but I want to see those, but it has to be kind of reevaluated, like I started to say, that we don't have the lithium
yeah.
for everyone to have an
Yeah.
affordable
Right.
electric car.
Well, and that's what it's just their solutions are not better. If you say that there's only because this was a question I got asked recently was the premise was given that there's only 40 years of oil left, shouldn't we switch to electric stuff? And I was like, I said, first of all, they've been saying that there was only 40 years of oil left literally since I was a teenager, and I'm 44. So it's apparently we're actually going to run out of oil in 10 years, according to peak oil conversations I remember from the 90s. Okay. So I just don't believe it.
Right.
But also, the thing that you want to replace it with is also made with rare earth minerals and creates a toxic non-recyclable waste. The batteries are not recyclable. They're toxic waste. And
Mhm.
where are we going to, same with solar panels. So it's like, look, I might even say, yes, let's invest in some of this stuff if it was actually a good replacement.
Mhm.
But it's not really renewable or regenerative, is it?
There's a lot of work
Like
to
they
be done
say.
before
Yeah,
we can jump into that. Well, there's a lot of work to be done before we can kill the oil and gas industry, I believe.
that is very true. Okay, so let's see. Medic Knight says executive orders actually started under George Washington. No, don't tell me that. That isn't, I don't even believe you. How dare you talk about my George Washington like that?
I've been
First one,
around. Yeah.
that surprises me. First one written in 1789 in order to put heads of federal departments in charge of the government. They had to do that through executive order. Why didn't they just do that legislatively? Put heads of federal departments in charge of the government. Isn't that interesting? Um, let's see. Chuck says, thank you for your great efforts yesterday, both. And you know what? Thank you, Chuck, because you guys also did an awesome job on your float. Theirs was the oh, it's not the Forgotten Man. What is it called with the empty table that's at the front
Well,
of all the VFWs?
yeah.
Um, it's Chuck. Are you still watching, Chuck? Tell me what it's called. There's a name for it. But and I just learned this. VFW posts will often have this table at the front of the building, and it's left empty, and it's basically like it's the open seat for those who didn't make it home.
Right.
And they put that on a float. I was like, that is so
I saw
cool.
that. It was nice.
That was so cool. Christopher says Ray and Patty are absolutely wonderful people. They really are. They're so fabulous. Okay, so Medic also asked, has there been any polling done yet for the Senate? Do you know if there's been any polling done in Vermont for any of our seats?
I have not seen any.
I don't think there has been any, not that I'm aware of.
I've
Okay.
met I would say well in the many thousands. So, and I've said this before. There was unanimous, almost unanimous appetite for change, and I think the red wave's coming.
Yes, we just need to make sure people are actually motivated to go vote.
Yes, get out and vote in person on August 9th, and
That's right,
it's
primary
very
day.
important.
Yep,
Primaries,
everybody watching right now, mark your calendars. August 9th is the primary day.
August
Go
9th.
vote in the primary. We
Mm,
have primary challengers. One of my primary challengers isn't even a Republican. So that's interesting. That's a whole other conversation. Maybe that's not fair. But his main website says that we need to abolish the two-party system and that he's running as an independent. So I'm a little bit confused. I don't know. Throwing a little shade there. Okay. So it's called, The Missing Man. Chuck says it's called The Missing Man. And it was Essex Republicans and Chittenden County GOP who put that together. And it was awesome. Oh, you were also the chili champs. Yes. Yes. Big shout out to Chuck and Christopher, I believe, in their chili cook-off last weekend. They won. And so, showing off. I like it. I like showing off and winning blue ribbons.
well,
So you guys
speaking of
had to
that,
keep up with me with my blue ribbon from the Maple
yeah.
Festival Parade.
Well, speaking of that, I do want to say nice job on the Milton Grange the forum that we had there.
Yeah, thank you. You
And
too.
like you were saying, there were that was it was a great event and real
Yes.
straightforward, and we covered some
Yeah.
tough questions, and
It was really nice. It was really nice to get just to get a bunch of people in the room, you
mhm,
know?
Yep.
Get everybody in the room, get to, starting to talk about some of these questions. I was really excited about the Section 230 question personally, because I feel like there's so much disinformation. God, I hate to use that word, but it seems like people don't really understand what Section 230 is. And I hear different stuff from the both that's wrong from both the left and the right. So um
Can you? So I didn't have that one. They had some different ones for the Senate.
yes, we had different. Yeah, that was one that we got as the congressional candidates. I
Hmm.
think there was it was like internet censorship was the topic or something like that, and then the Senate and the House got different questions.
Hmm.
All right, let's show everybody. You've got a Facebook page. Everybody go to the Facebook page. Oh, no. Let's see. So there is Facebook. Okay. It's Gerald Malloy for Senate. So at Gerald Malloy VT, politician. You've got some interviews on here.
Yeah, I had an
Got some
interview
stuff
with
posted.
Linda Kirker and Sound Off up at Northwest Cable Access. That was about an hour. That was great. And
Awesome.
I think you had. It was exciting week because I turned in my. Did you turn yours in this week also?
Yeah, I
The
turned
ballot.
mine in on Monday.
Yeah, I turned mine in, and right there, yeah, you can see the NBC5 came and
Yeah.
did a nice interview on the sidewalk there, and with Stacy and I, and that was it was a very exciting day.
Cool. Very cool. I like it. And you got some good tweets going. I am failing at the Twitter. I call it the Twitters on purpose so I can sound like I'm out of touch because I hate Twitter. So I'm avoiding it at all costs. I'm impressed with you being on Twitter. And this is so true though. This is such a good point. They claim to help the lower and middle class, but in reality, their reckless spending has caused economic catastrophe. I don't understand why they're so bad at math and that they don't understand that these are the normal consequences of the choices and the policy decisions.
I I, I agree with you. And one of our questions, I don't know if you had the exact same one, was talking about the overspending, and I
Yeah.
actually quoted Milton Friedman, and because it's not a secret.
Mhm.
If you keep creating money and dumping it
Yes.
into society, inflation is going to rise, and it has. And the response to that has been too late. And so, now we have the 40-year high inflation. And
Yes.
I think I made some comments that I do believe, I think the odds are greater than 50% we are going to go into a recession, at least, two quarters of downward growth. I think that is going to happen. And part of that is going to be the response. As you've probably seen, there have many interest rate, plans to increase the interest rate
Yeah.
over the next year. That's going to have further economic impacts, and actually is going to keep the inflation where it is for a while longer, I believe.
Yeah. Yep. And that it's just bad policy. And this is the thing, a lot of us talked about this, back 2 years ago when we saw that they started printing money and borrowing a bunch of stuff. It's like, okay, this isn't rocket science, okay? This is inevitable. We know how monetary policy works. We know what happens when you create money. This isn't a shock or a surprise, and I don't understand how it could possibly be to the people in leadership right now.
Uh,
Um, and so you don't want to. There's this theory. I don't know if that's the right word. It's like a legal theory or a legal rule. Stacy would know how to describe this. It's called Hanlon's razor. Okay. Never attribute to malice that which you can attribute to stupidity, basically, is what it says. And but sometimes you go, you gotta be really stupid for some of this. And I'm not supposed to insult people, and I know I got to be really careful about that. But like, that was stupid to do.
mhm. Well, I think, what we're going to do, both of us, is if we get through the primary, hopefully we will,
Yeah.
is we'll look at the voting record and of our opponents, me in
Yeah.
particular,
Yep.
because it's been rubber stamp,
Yeah.
no spending,
Yep.
1.9, billion, trillion, 2.5 trillion,
Yep.
adding to the debt, trying to get Build Back Better through, calling it 1.9, where it's more like 4 or 5,
Right.
and even now trying to, continue to try to get Build Back Better through, including tax increases, and that's another whole issue, because it bothers me that our last president had the tax cuts and job reform. I forget the
Yeah.
2017,
Yep.
and that was met with 100% Republican pro, Democrat against, and a lot of clamoring about what that would or wouldn't do. And the IRS has come out and said it has lowered taxes for the working class.
That's right. It did.
Fact.
Even oh my God, I was working at a accounting firm, a CPA firm, that next year. And my boss, who is super duper mega liberal, right? She was like wicked soup. She is mega
Mhm.
liberal. Okay. And even she got interviewed on TV and she was like, yeah, the average American saved or, earned $2,000 to $4,000 more or something. I don't
Mhm.
remember what the number was, but it
Right.
was something like that. The average American made more money with the
Mhm.
tax cut, and it wasn't rich. I mean, maybe rich people benefited from it too, but the working class also benefited. So y- you know there's this idea that there's this like I don't know. I just it confuses me why they believe they're entitled to our labor,
Mhm.
and why they don't realize that these things will affect people. You can say, oh, we're not going to raise taxes on any family making less than $400,000 a year. But you make monetary policy that makes my money worth less. And
Oh,
now,
it's
even if I
shrinking.
got,
Yeah. It's going like this. The value, your disposable income is going like that. I mean,
yeah,
and we talk
it,
about, they're going to say, well, the economy's doing great, and
mm,
the job market's great, but no, when you actually do the math and look at the inflation, your take home income has decreased.
that's right. And so everybody can tell. You can lie all you want, legislators, Mr. President. We can see the truth. Oh my goodness, excuse me.
On that point, Eric, I mean, that
Yeah.
one, as I'm sure you did the same, going out and, you get your signatures and
Mhm.
you engage people. That was one of the encouraging pieces for me, because as we all do, you meet people on all ends of the political spectrum, just engaging them. But
Yeah.
and I actually talked about this with my NBC5 interview, that I think you know common sense is going to prevail, and there's a small percentage that somehow still believes things are better, but there's and I'm talking about Democrats and
Yeah.
middle of the road, and that realize this isn't working.
Yeah.
And so that's encouraging, for me as a candidate. And I'm sure it probably is
Yeah.
for you too.
Yeah, it is. I'm really excited to see the average Vermonter, the average American finally deciding to take to pay attention, to get involved. We've already registered people to vote who've never registered before, never voted before, because they're finally, tired of it. But
Mhm.
also, you know, uh, one gentleman that we spoke to said, "I actually believe you. I actually believe what you say. I believe that you're actually going to go try." And he goes,
Mhm.
"Everyone else that I've talked to, I just feel like they're saying the same old thing. They
Mhm.
just say the right things and then they try to like look cute or whatever."
Mhm.
And he goes, "But I don't believe them."
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that, a lot of Vermonters in particular are very demoralized. And they've had so many of their elected officials, uh, not legislate in the way that they expected. There's a big fight right now in the Republican Party, and we don't have to get into all of this, but there's a big fight right now in the Republican Party about what do we stand for, right? What are our values? And we have this wide range of folks who are right of center involved with the Republican Party. And people assume that if you run on the Republican ticket, that you will vote for and uphold all of the things in the Republican platform. I think there's that kind of understanding.
Hmm.
And so a lot of Vermonters have felt very disappointed in their Republican legislators not actually legislating conservatively.
Mhm.
And so I wonder, are you hearing I'm hearing that a lot from folks, and I feel like that's a big hurdle to overcome for candidates here in Vermont this year. Are you finding that at all, or
Well, I've I think of myself as being pretty straightforward, and I
Yeah.
have said right from the beginning that I'm in line with the Republic, what I think are the Republican Party platform and
Yeah.
Republican values, and I think that's and I think that my approach is to be part of a unified Republican effort
Yeah.
because of exactly the things we've been talking about. The Democrat Party, uh, president, administration, Senate, and House controlled, have led us to a very very bad spot. So
Mhm.
um, my three main goals involve getting back to abiding by the Constitution, getting back to
Yeah.
actually promoting economic prosperity, the opportunity for economic prosperity, and
Yeah.
then ensuring defense, security, and order. Those
Mhm.
are Republican Party platform,
Yep.
Republican Party values, and
Yeah.
that's that's my approach, and I think it's resonating with
Good.
people that I meet that realize my belief is that that's what the country needs. I mean, that's why I'm running because
Yeah.
I don't like what I'm seeing, and like we talked about I mean, we're a $30 trillion debt. I feel horrible. I mean, I mentioned I have four kids. Here, kids,
Yeah.
there's a
You're welcome.
$30 trillion debt, and I mean, we all have a checkbook. I don't you know, keep going in the red over and
I
over.
know, right?
And
If our if the federal government suffered the same consequences that we suffer,
yeah,
if we behaved and spent the way they did,
yeah. Well,
they would have been bankrupted long ago.
the same thing. I mean, working, I mentioned working in industry and business the last 11 plus years in Washington, D.C., extremely competitive on cost. Government organizations. I mean, that's you have a technical and you have a cost, and pretty often the choice will be a very, I mean, tenths and hundreds of a percentage point, not
Yeah,
5-10%. It's so to see that, and then to see this, rubber stamp over spending, which is just it's not revenue. It's just printing off money, and
that's right.
it's it's hard to watch.
Yeah, that's why I tell people I want to be like Calvin Coolidge. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Vermonter, first of all, President
Mhm.
Coolidge was a Vermonter. A. B. He was the only president that the national debt did not grow under.
Mhm.
So the only one. So I want to be like Calvin
Yep.
Coolidge.
Oh yeah.
Uh
Small business and abiding by the Constitution. That's what he was.
that's right. And I'm like, I'm an accountant, okay? I know how to balance budgets. I know how, like, what bills can be paid and what cannot. And like I said, if my clients ran their businesses the way the federal government is run, they wouldn't have businesses.
Mhm.
Okay, Judy says, I hate Twitter. Yes, I hate Twitter as well. Hi, Gerald and Erica. Thank you both for stepping up and running this year.
Thank you.
Yes. Amen to that, Judy.
Thank you,
Thank
Judy.
you. All right. Here's your website.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
website, Deploy Malloy. It's got a lot of information about, I covered a little bit about, my 42 years of
Oh, on the about
service
page.
one way or another. And a lot of my positions, as I mentioned, under abiding by the Constitution and economic prosperity and ensuring defense, security, and order. I think I have some very good, viable ideas
Excellent.
underneath each of those.
Yeah, I like it. I'm into it. Constitution. I'm a constitutional conservative. That's what I tell. That's why I'm a Republican. Oh, some upcoming events. Oh, that's great. That's a nice feature on the page. Let people
Yep.
know where you're going to be so they can come say hello.
Yep.
Oh, good picture. Hey.
Oh yeah. That was one. Yeah, that's one of the first thing I had an interview on VMT.
Ah, yeah, WVMT. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, look at these pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh
played.
my
You can see
goodness.
I played hockey at West Point, and that's my daughter Hannah.
Oh
And
my God. Is she the oldest? Is Hannah the
no,
oldest?
she's number two. She's
Oh my God. Look
she's
at how cute
19.
you guys are.
She's
Oh
awesome.
my goodness. I love it. Okay, what's this? What's this hockey picture?
Oh, that's yeah. It was so I played at West Point, and kind of a neat thing that the gentleman were on the shoulders. That's Jack
Yeah.
Riley, um, pretty much a hockey legend, and played 4 years for him. He coached the '60 Olympic team to gold medal. He also played in one or two Olympics, but he national champion at Dartmouth and is a veteran himself, naval aviator. Just a great American. Influenced
Excellent.
well, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young men.
Nice. Very cool. Oh, Judy says, I have 10 days to pay my
Oh,
gas
there's
bills
the
for
Calvin
Procter
Coolidge right there.
Gas.
So at White
Oh,
River, see that? That's the gentleman that's in charge of the
wait,
up one. Yeah,
this one?
Tracy. I forget his last name, but he came impersonating Calvin Coolidge, and he told me I think it's the 150th anniversary. I think he's born on the 4th of July. I want to say,
Oh,
but
no kidding.
150 years old, and it's the 100th anniversary of his presidency right now.
What? Oh my God. We have to do. Okay, I got to write
Roaring
that down.
20s, the Roaring 20s.
Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Coolidge anniversary. Do something cool. I'm totally writing this down. Awesome.
Oh,
All
oh,
right.
can I tell you one other picture I think is kind of neat?
Yeah.
The one with it's a selfie. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll admit that, but that's kind of close up on my
This one?
face. Yeah, that was up. Were you up at St. Albans for the Maple Fest?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm walking around there, and I saw I believe that's the Gettysburg Address from President Lincoln,
Ah.
first Republican president. But
Mm-hmm.
the beauty I thought of that, and it was just timing,
Yeah.
is the two young children there holding hands walking behind me.
Yep.
It's just a nice. It's nice.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And that's, that is what this country is about.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, we may not have always lived up to our ideals,
Mm.
our founding ideals in this country, but through progressive sanctification, we have slowly but surely gotten there.
And I'm hoping I'm getting this right, but I mean, the end of that address talks about um, of the people, by the people, for the
Oops.
people.
Yes. Well, and this is what, oh, that's not working like I wanted it to. One of the things I tell people is that, for those folks who want to say that, this country has never changed, this hasn't changed and everything is worse. I'm
Mhm.
like, 50, 60 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, in some places, Benjamin and I could not be married to one another. Like
Mhm.
I could not be in an interracial marriage. Don't tell me that things have not gotten better and that this country is not an amazing place. We've gone
Mhm.
traveling through the deepest parts of Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia, Texas, Vermont, every podunk place that you can imagine. And not once has anyone been ugly to us, not served us, or
Mhm.
anything like that.
It's nice.
And so, I'm proud. I really am proud to be an American.
Me
Uh,
too.
and
And well, I was going to say, uh, I talked about taking that oath, and for me, the underlying whole, my belief is, allowing individuals to pursue their happiness, and whatever that is, I mean, without breaking the law, but I mean, whatever that is, and it's one of the reasons I love Vermont because I mean, we've got the whole spectrum, and that's
yes,
great. That's America, and I mean,
absolutely.
not to go too far off tangent, but we saw the leaked Roe v. Wade
Mm,
possible decision to take that
yeah.
out of the Supreme Court
Yeah.
and give it to the states, respectively, and the people. And you'll probably see that right in my website. Per the Constitution, I agree with that
Yeah.
because the 10th Amendment, that power is not reserved anywhere, and it should. I think that is democracy for that decision to be
Yes.
at the states
Correct.
and people,
That's not a federal issue.
and then I will have my vote, as you mentioned earlier, and to impact that in the future, and who I vote for at the
Yeah.
state level in the future.
Mm,
Um, you mentioned the marriage. I hear things about, well, that's if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, that's going to be next.
it
That's not
it's
true,
silly.
and it's not in my mind at all. I want to protect people's
Yeah.
freedoms and rights, not.
It's wholly unserious. It is really what it is. It's ad hominem attacks to try to get people incensed and all lathered up to be angry and violent and whatever. It's just nonsense. And I agree with you. People don't understand, folks like us, who understand how the federalist system is supposed to work. um, we see the beauty in that. We value freedom, personal autonomy, and things like that. And that those values aren't really inculcated in our kids anymore, right? We're not teaching that. We don't value grit in this country anymore. And then we're curious why people want to be taken care of.
Well, there's a couple of points related to that. I personally, I think many of the mandates that have been pushed upon us are unconstitutional, and I think they actually reflect a leadership failure that to continue pushing mandates and overspending has led us to a very bad state of the country. One of the initiatives I think you kind of talking about is parents' rights to decide what is and what is not taught to their children. And I mentioned my youngest is
Yes.
13, and my wife Stacy and I we have him not participating in things that I just
Mm,
don't think my 13-year-old needs to. It shouldn't be part of the what I look for is reading, writing, arithmetic, STEM,
yes.
life skills, and job skills and social skills.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
need
the
them
schools
learning
it's not the
about
school's job to teach my kids
critical
about
race
having
theory. I don't need my kids that being somebody's ideology being kind of pumped on my
exactly. It's
kids.
I don't what when did they start adding morality as part of the job requirement? You also need to, teach your moral values to our children. I'm not into that. I feel like you just need to teach science and math and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I just read Vice President Pence actually had an article about. I'm going to get the word wrong. ESG,
Yeah.
environmental, social, governance,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep, that's right.
companies
Yeah,
implementing that.
ESG score.
Yeah, and I mean, his article, I think rightly so, was against all that. I mean, which to me gets back to my second part about actually promoting the opportunity for economic prosperity. I don't think that the government really shouldn't be telling private industry that we need to see a score on that. And
Yeah, it is, this is, fascism is a corporate is really when corporations and government combine. And so when you start, having the government dictating what industries are allowed to do or and vice versa, and the way that the incestuous relationship between these large corporations, social media, media corporations is really deeply troubling. Every American, Democrat or Republican, should be troubled by that. We should not have Coca-Cola being able to persuade states to decide one way or the other
Mhm.
in their governance. I mean, we used to agree, and I thought we were all equally outraged with a certain Supreme Court decision that allowed corporations to basically get involved in politics. And so now they're okay with corporations like strong arming the government to make decisions. I don't understand. I don't get that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just to me, uh, if we want government to be government and industry to be industry, they probably really just need to be separated and
Mhm.
keep it that way.
Yeah.
Um, that's just my opinion.
You had
Uh,
mentioned the committees.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What committees are you thinking you might want to
Uh,
get on?
Armed Services
That makes
and
perfect sense.
Veterans Affairs and Foreign Affairs. I've actually worked with about 20 NATO partners and allies throughout my career. Um, I guess a side note to that, I think as a U.S. senator, you have a role for advising the president on foreign
Yeah,
policy, and I think I could help in there. I think there's been some damaged relationships. I think there are some treaties our administration has been looking at getting involved in, particularly with like Iran, um, and also kind of improving how the going back to Afghanistan, how our administration, you know, considers the wise counsel of the military as opposed to just kind of not considering it. But
yeah.
the other one I'm interested in is some of the different agriculture um, committees, and the reason for
Mm,
that here in Vermont is a proud farming, agriculture, dairy
that is
tradition.
very true.
And I would like, one of the things I've talked about, and we've seen it on the news about, the pending food prices going up, supply
Yeah,
chain issues, wheat, worldwide problems with that. I would like to see, as I mentioned, oil and gas independence, which we had. I would seek to get that back, but I like to see to ensure that we also have food independence here, and I
yeah,
think we can. Um, uh, plus I just love food that's already made here in Vermont. I mean, some great products already. So
that is true. That is very true. Okay, so as a reminder, everybody watching, you can feel free to put a question in the chat. Let's see, Judy, what do you think of China buying up so much of our agricultural and livestock farms? Oh, great question. Yeah, go for it, Gerald. Tell
yeah,
us what you
I,
think
I
about that.
I don't like that, and that gets right back to the food independence. And
Yeah,
I've talked, under my promoting economic prosperity. I would look at reviewing trade sanctions against. I know we have several. I know there are tariffs, but I think there's more work to be done in terms of really taking a look at countries that we trade with. If they're communist or pushing drugs into the United States or don't have fair trade practices, or, for instance, you've seen a lot in the news lately about how much government subsidy there is, from China into its industry, which is not fair for us. And there are a couple other
yeah,
categories, but I would look at new sanctions, and I've actually talked about not so much on the agriculture side, but on the industry side. If we were to impose some sanctions and stopped buying a widget from China, maybe someone, an industrious Vermonter or 10 industrious Vermonters would fire up a factory and make that widget made in Vermont,
mm,
made in America. That'd be great.
yeah,
I actually believe, and I've said this, a few times in public, that I think China is waging chemical warfare
yeah,
against the United States. And the reason I say that is because fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It's made out of chemicals,
correct.
and they're pumping that in mostly through our southern border, which I've also said I do think we need the wall for many reasons, including the opioid crisis. But uh, I do think if we, I can't imagine Xi Jinping doesn't know that they're pumping
Correct.
ammo into our country. I actually call that the long game, and it's. I think we should put a stop to it. And I think if we really got tough on China and said, okay, you trade almost $2 trillion worth of products coming in the United States. If we were to say that's going to drop down to 500 billion until the fentanyl stops, fentanyl's probably going to stop, or at least slow way down, so we're not killing 100,000 Americans a year.
Yeah, I agree. That's national defense is the federal government's primary job. Trade and national defense. I think, those are two of the only things in the Constitution that the federal government is responsible for. And so, I would love to see it restored to the proper size. And,
Yeah,
that's the southern border, the fentanyl, the trade deficit with China, all great examples of why we need them to be focused on what really matters. And that's national defense.
that's another, you mentioned earlier about things that are kind of hard to understand. Well, why are we doing that?
Yeah.
And you take a step back, and it's illegal immigration, and not only that, we're actually paying for people to go places and live places, and it's having an adverse effect on the economy, and of course the drugs coming in. So I am, and I mentioned actually back at Milton Grange, I mentioned I
Yeah.
actually talked with a drug czar 15 years ago, and he talked about it being absolutely out of control, and here we are.
Yep.
It's worse,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
so
And
that's
at
one
a
of the things I would
time
look.
when, oh, sorry,
That
Gerald.
was day one in the Biden administration. Stop the wall. Stop
Yeah,
working the wall.
exactly. And that's, and at the same time, let's make sure we keep everybody's businesses shut down and keep them from being able to provide a living for themselves and keep them separated from another so that they're totally depressed and want to do drugs.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, brilliant plan. Let's see. Judy asked, ooh, this is a good question. How do you guys feel about repealing the Jones Act to make trade from one port to another in the US easier to accomplish? I actually don't know what this is. Do you? The Jones
Yeah. Can you
Act?
repeat the question? I am not.
It says, "How do you guys feel about repealing the Jones Act?" I'm gonna look this up. Jones Act. I thought I was gonna we were gonna close here in a minute, and then she asked me a doozy, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Let's look it up. Jones Act trade. Jones Act definition is a federal law that regulates maritime commerce in the United States.
Is there some
The
part
Jones
about it?
Act requires goods to be shipped between U.S. ports to be transported on ships that are built, owned, and operated by United States citizens or permanent residents. The Jones Act is Section 27 of the Merchant Marine Act of 1920, which provided for the maintenance of the American merchant marine. Oh God, I definitely don't feel like I can speak to
What
this.
was the question about repealing it?
How do we feel about repealing it to make trade from one port to another easier in the US to accomplish? I'm on it for me personally, Gerald, and you can make your own decision, Judy. I can't answer that question because I don't. This is the first I'm hearing about this. So I'm willing to look into it and
Y-
form an opinion about it, but I have
Me
no
too.
idea.
I'm not fully read up. I apologize, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
no, no, nope. Okay, let's think of something else to hurry up and end on so that we aren't ending on, I don't know. Actually, you know what? That is a good place to end because that is something I will say that I would like. I'm going to speak as your host right now and not as a candidate, right? Gerald, I appreciate you saying that because I don't wanna be lied to, and a lot of politicians will just say stuff and they'll try to sound smart or they'll just, like, blow off your question. I actually appreciate you just being like, "I don't know, but I'm willing to understand
Yeah,
more."
I'll look into it. That
I think
happened to me on WVMT. It was literally a couple of weeks after I made my announcement. So a
Yep.
caller came in and asked about how Senator McCain voted on something in 2014. And I'm like, I don't remember exactly how Senator
What, you
McCain
don't know
voted.
how every Republican has voted on everything for the last 20 years?
I'm trying, but no, I don't.
There is a lot to learn. There is so much to learn and to keep up on.
Well,
Gerald, before we go, and Judy said, thank you for being honest. But I will look into that. I've got it pulled up here. So Gerald, before we go, why don't you take a moment and just give everybody your sales pitch one more time, and make sure to remind everybody of your website, your social media, and any other notes you want to share with our viewers before
sure.
we
Well,
close.
let me think, Eric. So yeah, the www.deploymalloy.com. Please take a look at my
Yes.
website,
Yes.
and please, as we mentioned, please mark your calendar. August 9th is the primary. That's the first step, and you've got some great candidates to look at.
Yes.
I think I'm the right candidate on the Republican Party side, and the right candidate to get our country moving back in the right direction. I do have 42 years of what I think is very relevant experience, and I just want to serve Vermonters and do the right thing, get our country back on track, abiding by the Constitution, promoting economic prosperity, and ensuring the defense, security, and order of our country. I would also say, as we see and hear about this red wave, I do believe what is going to happen is it is going to happen. And I believe the Republican Party is going to take control of the House and the Senate. And what Vermont is looking at right now is having an independent senator that caucuses with the Democrats, and then a freshman representative and a freshman senator.
Yeah.
And it will be in Vermont's best interest, in my opinion, to have Republican leadership representing Vermont when the Republican Party takes control of Congress. I want to serve Vermont. And Eric, I want to say thank you for having me on. I would be glad to come on some other time. And
Excellent.
Congratulate you on your campaign. I think it's going great. And
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Gerald. It was great to get to know you a little bit better, get to know your background, and get to meet your family a little bit too. It's super
Oh, hey,
fun.
one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Go Celtics. Week 7
All
tonight.
right. All right. Go Celtics. I love it. All right, everyone. Thank you for being with us this week. Next week's show is going to be something a little bit different. I'm not going to give you too much advance warning. It's going to be just me. It's going to be sort of a ask me anything combination with a warning to Vermonters. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Ooh, suspense. Ooh. So definitely make sure to come check out the show next Sunday. We will be airing live at 7 p.m. And we're going to take us out today with a commercial for my book called Reasons to Trust the Government. So you guys, if you want a great gift to share with friends, check it out. $9.99 on Amazon.com. You can get my book. I co-wrote with my husband, Benjamin. The cover is beautiful. As a good friend of mine said today, it is an absolute page turner. So here we go. Let's close with the commercial.
This book will give you wings!
What kind of wings?
Not like Icarus wings, like eagle's wings!
What about dragons?
You'll have dragon's blood! You'll be able to breathe fire!
Fire like the Ultra Eagle Dragogun!
This book will make you smarter!
Yes!
I'm not just talking honor roll smart, I'm talking Nikola Tesla smart! You'll be so good looking, Brad Pitt will be jealous!
Do you want to make money?
How much money?
Elon Musk money.
That's a lot of money!
People will think you're Elon Musk, but you're not Elon Musk, but they'll think you're
Elon Musk, because you pay taxes like Elon Musk!
And you have to argue with Elizabeth Warren because she thinks you're Elon Musk. Do you want freedom?
How much freedom?
All the freedom. One to America. How much freedom do you want?
America!
Double America! Yeah!